Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Behind me, 2017 Kia Optima with the 2-liter turbo. We're going to be replacing the timing chain. Now this video was part of a larger repair. We pulled the head off, refurbished it, put the head on, new gasket, and the timing system was all part of that. So if all you need is the timing chain, guides, tensioner, we've clipped that little portion out of the larger video, packaged it all up super nice, and sending it your way. Let's get started. Let's pop this off real quick. Should just pull up. It's just grommets holding it in. Ugh. So now let's go ahead and work on our timing cover. We want to pull our tire off. So this side we'll want to jack up if you don't already have it jacked up. Pull our tire off. We need to get to our crank pulley. So the belt is a 17 mil wrench. We can't get a socket in there. There's not enough room, but a wrench works perfectly. The tensioner isn't crazy tight, and the tensioner goes counterclockwise. So as far as taking the water pump belt off, I have a couple of tools. It's a stretch to fit belt, so there is no tensioner. This one here, Gates 91031. This can be used for like a Subaru. This one here, I don't know who makes it. It might also be a Gates, not sure. This was for a Ford. All right, we're gonna take this fender well off. Having a pair of pliers like this really helps. Just holding on these clips. All right, and then we're just gonna bend it out of the way. Not sure if you can see anything I'm doing. I can't even see anything I'm doing. Let me show you what I got going on. So right there's that tool. I have it in between the belt and the pulley, and then I'm gonna spin the engine. And then as that spins, it should kick this belt off of that water pump pulley. That's the goal. I don't know if I can just sit you down somewhere. Yeah, looks like it worked. See if I can get this belt off. There we go. Perfect, got it. Might be a different story putting it back on though. Okay, let's pull our crank pulley off. So that'll be a 22 millimeter. Not too bad. See if our pulley comes off. Oh yeah, easy peasy. So again, filming's not gonna be the best because of the tight space, but this is our cover here. So with our oil pan, we want to take out the bolts around our oil pan that bolt into our cover. We also have these bolts here. We'll take care of down here while we're here, and then we'll go up top and start pulling off that stuff. For the oil pan bolts, I just wanted to point this out. There's one bolt right here, 10 millimeter, that you cannot get off without removing this little bracket. That's for our AC compressor here. So what we want to do is remove this bracket. There's two bolts here, one here, one here. Fortunately for me, these were actually just loose in here like this. They weren't even tight. So whoever worked on it last, thank you, because now I don't have to undo them. But we don't have to pull them all the way out. We just have to have them disconnected from our bracket. Yeah, slid out a little. And then we'll 12 millimeter, we'll pull all those 12 millimeter bolts. And this little bracket just whoop, slides right out. Then we can get to that 10 millimeter. Just one more note too while I'm down here. There are two bolts, one here and one up there, both 10 millimeter. They are behind the water pump pulley. So the water pump pulley does have to come off, it looks like. And there are 1, 2, 3, 10 millimeter bolts holding the face of it on. So what I would suggest or recommend is busting these loose before taking the belt off. I didn't know that had to come off, so I already took the belt off. But with the belt on, it'll hold it in place while you bust these or crack them loose. And then once the belt's off, then you can just finger pull them off. All right, we got everything down below, I believe. So next we want to take off our tensioner pulley. It is a 6 millimeter Allen or hex. You got a bolt up top, and there is a bolt down below. The bolt down below can be a little challenge. What I got it with is a 1/4 inch, and it has like a little flex head on it. So it allowed me to flex just enough with a little socket or ratchet. Finish getting this top one out. All right. Now we want to get a jack with a block and put it under the oil pan just to hold this up, because we're going to be removing this motor mount. All right, these are 17 millimeter. There we go. We also want to pull this bracket off here. They look like 14. Yep. We want to pull this off so we can get access to that. This coolant bottle comes off. There we go. Let me just set this back for now. Put one bolt in it so it's not flopping around. Alternator bracket. All right, I think it's just these top bolts, 12 millimeter. Pull off this ground strap. So these are my favorite extensions. They have that little wobbly head on them. I think that does a lot. Let me double check. All right, so now we just need a prying apparatus, pry bars, screwdrivers, whatever you have. We want to look, sometimes like right here, they'll give you a prying spot. You might need to move this out of the way, but maybe not. But they give you a little spot to pry. It's too small for this. Let me use a screwdriver. Well, not quite. Let's see if there's another spot. Let me look at the manual real quick to see if this has to come off, just to be sure. So it does have me remove this. Not sure, it doesn't show a hidden bolt behind it. So I think you want to pull this off so it doesn't bind, because it's a really tight fit. There's a little oil seal right here, because this spins. So there's a little oil seal. So you want to take this off so it doesn't bind up on there as we're prying on the case. You also want to be careful, this looks magnetic, so we don't want to mess with any magnets near this thing. I don't see that note in the manual, but it's just always a good idea. Okay, and the manual did say where the head meets the block, there's a little prying spot there, and I can see it. It's not huge, but there's a little prying spot. So let's see what we can do with it. There we go. Feels like it's stuck on the oil pan. Let me see if I got all those bolts. Yep, I think it's just gooey. Yeah, so that's all it was glued to the oil pan, but it is kind of stuck to it. There we go. Now you will lose a good chunk of oil, so have a catch pan under there. Drain the oil ahead of time, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Okay, here we go. Up and out. Plenty of room. Before pulling the chain off, we want to set our timing. So we'll have to spin the engine over. The easiest way to do that is with the spark plugs out. So we'll go ahead and take off our coils, take out our spark plugs, and then we won't be fighting engine compression while turning the engine over. 10 mil. All right, so we'll put the crank pulley bolt back in. Okay, so now we're just cranking the engine, turning it by hand until those timing marks line up where they need to be. Let me show you where I have the timing marks. So if you look at the top marks, there's one right there, one right there. They do not point at 12 o'clock. They're a little off 12 o'clock. Now if you go to the bottom, is right there at 6 o'clock. So the dimple and then the keyway. Let me see if you can see the keyway. Right there at 9 o'clock. So keyway at 9, dimple at 6, and then that puts these up here, not quite 12 o'clock. So all we're doing, we're gonna pull the tensioner and then our two guides, and that's it. Chain should come right off. It's like 10 mil. Any internal engine components that you'll be reusing, you wanna set them on a nice clean surface. There you go. Okay, that's it. Now the cams move just a smidge, no big deal. If that happens on you, it's not a problem. All right, we wanna put our chain on. The two colored links closest to each other are for the cams, and then that far away one is for the crank. All right, we wanna rotate the cam just a little more. Rotate this one just a little. There we go. Just to get them a little closer, maybe just a little more than that. There we go. So they do have a spot for a wrench. Just use a pair of vice grips, that's okay. If you're gonna use vice grips, you can use this slot here that they already have, or this spot down here where it doesn't rub on anything, nothing is using this spot. It's just part of the shaft. And we have our guide. Put that on. Snug that down. Double check our crank mark. So we're off one tooth on the crank, which is fine. So our cams are good where they are. I'm gonna move the crank just a little. All right, we are good. So I just had to move it just a smidge. Then we have our tensioner arm. Put that on. There we go. So we got our new tensioner. Put that on. I'm gonna see, it might actually be easier to do this from down below. It is easier from down below. All right, we'll double check our timing marks. Looks good up top. Looks good down below. Let's torque everything down. Everything is 8.7 foot-pounds. To convert foot-pounds to inch-pounds, just multiply that by 12. You get 104.4. So if you have an inch-pounds instead of a foot-pounds, that's the conversion. Okay, let me show you the timing marks. So our top one there is lined up. This one over here also lined up. And then come down below. Let me turn the light on. That one right there, can you see the dot? Is also lined up. Perfect. Now we can pull our pin. All right. And we'll turn the crank clockwise to take out any slack in that chain. All right, our timing is set. Let's prep for our cover. We just want to make sure our surface is nice and clean, RTV free. Before doing the timing, you can scrape just down both sides really well, get all that RTV off. We'll be applying new RTV on our timing cover side. All right, clean rag, a little bit of brake clean. I'm just gonna wipe off our whole mating surface. Okay. I'll go underneath and get the rest. So now on our cover, we're gonna go to the inside of every bolt hole, all the way around. And then we have 3 in the middle. We'll just circle each of those bolt holes and then a bead on the bottom. Same thing, inside of the bolt holes. Just a bead. Move this over, do a bead on the bottom. And because this is the oil pan, we can go ahead and go around each bolt. Give us a little extra protection. Okay. All right, now let's set this aside. Now we want RTV here. This cam cap, where it meets the head, there's a little seam. Just want to make sure that there's enough. Now it should only be a little because you already have some on the cover. Same here, this little seam. All this is doing is just ensuring a good seal. It doesn't take a lot. It's a little dab. Okay, down below. Now in the corner where the oil pan meets the block, the corner of that oil pan, we want to put a bead right in the corner. If you have the crank bolt on because you were spinning the engine, we want to pop that off first. Okay, let's feed this in and try not to get that RTV on anything. Just straight down. Perfect, just like. Okay, just like that. We'll get a couple bolts threaded in real quick. Nice, we'll get a couple more on the bottom, and then just 2 more in the middle. Now we just want to snug that up until the RTV just starts to squish out. Nice. Okay, get our 10 mils. Now our bottom ones. All right, we'll just let that set up for about an hour, then we'll come back and torque everything. All right, the 12 millimeter bolts are 16.6 foot-pounds, and the 10 millimeter bolts are 7.2. Now I don't have torque spec for the oil pan, but I imagine that would be the same. 7.2 for the 10 mil. There are 4 12 millimeter bolts for that bracket. I guess 16.6 sounds good to me. And then we'll tighten up our AC compressor. Next, we got this. Put this back on. What I'm gonna do first is let's just get a little bit of oil or a lubricant on this seal here so it slips over nice and easy. Okay, there we go. Looks like we have 8.7 foot-pounds for this and just a crisscross pattern. Starting up, then down, over, and over. All right, let's torque that. All right, now we have our mounting bracket. We'll put that in like that. We got our long one goes on the top right, and everything else goes in. Now I got a couple of goofy ones, not sure if yours looks like this or not, but the little bolt is a different torque than the rest, but all the other bolts are the same. Snug them up. So our big bolts are 32.5, and our one small bolt is 18 foot-pounds. All right, let's put this bad boy back on. Let's get a torque for those. All right, these are 65 foot-pounds. We got our big guy. And these are 79.5, pretty much 80. Nice, now we can pull the jack out from underneath. For a water pump pulley, you can't get a torque wrench on there, so good and snug. They are small 10 millimeter bolts, so you don't want to over tighten them. And then our automatic belt tensioner is 18 foot-pounds. So we want just a little bit of oil coating this so it goes right into our seal nice and smooth, and then just a tad bit of RTV right here in this keyway so we don't get a leak of oil coming out of our keyway. And that is torqued to 38 foot-pounds plus 82 degrees. All right, there you go. That's how you can replace your timing components on a Kia Optima. I really like how this engine is laid out. I like how it's designed. Plenty of room to work with and really no hangups. Getting that cover off, pulling off the timing chain and all its components was relatively simple compared to other makes and models out there. Nope, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment down below. See you on the next one.